As time progresses, the smartphone market gets increasingly saturated and more difficult for these devices to stand out. But not too long ago, Realme released their GT 5G, a phone with high-end specs and a mid-range price tag. And well, what you see on paper is enough to raise some eyebrows. I know it intrigued me for sure. So let's not waste any time and take a look at that spec sheet. Boom, there you go. Yeah, it won't take long to see that this phone is pretty loaded. It's got the latest and greatest flagship processor, a 4500 mAh battery, a 120Hz display, 65-watt fast charging, stereo speakers, a headphone jack. Huh, that's actually really cool. We don't see that very often anymore, do we? And the list goes on, and it's all wrapped up in some really solid hardware. It's got a modest design, it's got a basic camera cutout in the screen, which is flat as you can see, and a simple camera module on the back. Nothing too flashy or anything like that. There is that awesome looking yellow variant with that racing stripe and vegan leather material, but I have the model with a glass back, and they call this color dashing blue. All the variants have a plastic frame, but it doesn't make the phone feel cheap, and pair that with some nice curvature on the back, and you've got a comfortable phone to hold and use with a clean look. As of this video, this phone is running Android 11 with realme UI 2.0 on top, and with this being my first time trying realme UI 2.0, I was pretty impressed with what it had to offer. It's not cluttered and overly bloated. Sure, it's got a handful of pre-installed applications, but in no way is it overwhelming. The settings are easy to navigate, there aren't a bajillion submenus, and you don't have to constantly dig to find what you're looking for. And there are a large handful of tweaks, customizations, and features in here, some of which I wish some manufacturers would add to their OS. There's a lot you can do to adjust how things operate. You can really tweak things to your liking, and as a customization freak, I was pleased with what I got in terms of what's baked into the OS. Now, I'm not too experienced with Realme, so I'm not exactly sure what their track record is like when it comes to long-term software support. So fingers crossed, but I'm not getting my hopes up. As far as what it's like to use this phone on the daily, it's been nice. Like I said, this phone is comfortable to hold. The in-display fingerprint scanner is fast and accurate. I never had any issues with this one. I like the button placement. The power button is in a good, ergonomically friendly position, and I like that the volume buttons are on the opposite side. The haptics are solid, no complaints here. The screen is only 1080p, but that's not a problem for me anyway. It's nice to look at with good colors, good contrast and brightness, and it's nice to use, of course, with that 120Hz refresh rate and 360Hz touch sampling rate. The stereo speakers are okay, albeit pretty underwhelming. They sound kind of tinny, and the $350 Pixel 4 Ace speakers sound better. Now these do get the job done, they get nice and loud, but they could be better, especially on the low end. Call quality was good in my experience, not much else to say about that, but one thing worth mentioning is that this phone is missing some significant 5G and even 4G bands for use here in the US. I can squeak by just fine on T-Mobile, and this wasn't a complete deal breaker for me. I just felt that it was worth pointing this out. Another thing worth mentioning is that there's no IP certification for water resistance, which is pretty unfortunate, so do with that what you will. Now the GT performs about as you'd expect, considering what's under the hood. It moves just as smoothly and quickly as devices that cost hundreds more. Yeah, bouncing between apps, playing games, everything I do on any other phone, this one pushes through it like it's nothing, as it should. It's great during heavy use like streaming music and videos while downloading a bunch of applications with a screen at something like 90% brightness, responding to messages and emails, and scrolling through multiple applications. I didn't notice any slowdowns. The phone did warm up a little bit. It also warmed up during gameplay, but it didn't get hot. I've experienced concerning heat levels in phones before, and the warmth experienced here was nothing to worry about at all. Speaking of playing games, unfortunately, the frame rate here is capped at 60 frames per second, which is interesting considering the hardware is clearly capable of more than that. Oh well, that doesn't kill the gaming experience, for me at least. I'm not a hardcore gamer. And like with everyday performance, the most demanding games run just as well as they do on phones that cost twice as much. One interesting thing about this phone is its cooling system. Realme added stainless steel vapor cooling, and basically, instead of a pure copper cooling system, the GT sports a steel copper composite cooling system. The copper for thermal conductivity, and the stainless steel shell for improved structural integrity. According to Realme, not only is the system more robust than most, it also provides better cooling efficiency. Now that leads me to battery life, and what I got out of this phone was pretty solid. I was able to pull around 6 to 7 hours of screen on time with moderate to heavy use. The display being 1080p helps out with that for sure. I could get through a full day's use on a single charge no problem, and if I ever needed to extend the battery life, the OS comes with a handful of ways to help out with that. Now there's no wireless charging to speak of, unfortunately, but fortunately 65-watt fast wire charging is here, or super dart charging as they call it, which lets you charge the phone from 0 to 100% in a little over half an hour, which is crazy. Of course, we've seen 65-watt charging on other devices, but it's not too often we see it in a phone in this price range, so huge thumbs up for this. Getting to the cameras, we're looking at a triple camera setup. You got your wide angle, your ultra wide, and a macro lens, and no telephoto. Everyday point and shoot shots with the two main lenses come out looking pretty good. Nothing that'll beat out the likes of the top tier phones out there, but you'll get solid colors and dynamic range with good contrast. They're serviceable and definitely usable for social media. Macro shots are okay, nothing incredible, but if you really want to get close up to your subject, then this can get the job done. Low light conditions will really put these cameras to the test, and you can see the struggle especially with a wide angle lens, but the included night mode does help out quite a bit. Video capture is decent, nothing to write home about, and it does leave a little bit to be desired, but again, it gets the job done, and you can get some nice looking results. What you get out of these cameras is solid, and there's a nice handful of different shooting modes that you can take advantage of. On their own, the cameras are good. It's when you start comparing results to what you get out of flagship phones where things get a little difficult. So while I can't say that they're a reason to buy this phone, they do provide an all-around good experience when considering the phone's price. Now, I've mentioned the price a couple times so far, but I haven't mentioned any actual numbers just yet. Well, the GT starts at under $450 for the base model, and prices vary depending on where you're shopping. But yeah, you've seen the specs, you know the price, and it's easy to see that there's a lot of value here. It's not a perfect phone by any means, but what phone is, honestly? There's a lot to like about the realme GT, and I think it's absolutely worth a look. This is a fresh reminder that you don't have to spend a whole ton of money to get a great phone. The GT really is a beast. I've enjoyed using it, and you could easily consider this a flagship killer of sorts. So what do you think of the realme GT 5G? Let us know your thoughts and we'll talk about it in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to drop us a like, it would help out a lot, and subscribe to the Android Police channel if you're new. It's been Zach, I'll talk to you later, and thank you so much for watching.